Welcome back, Crafty Babes. I am Andrea. We are going to work on a 8.5 by 11 planner style page. Now, this is a template that I've designed for myself based on seeing other planner pages out there, and I just decided to make mine 8.5 by 11 because I can work with that easily. It provides me a lot of space. I'm doing this format for my family album, which I am now doing monthly. As the kids get older, the family things become less and less, and so I can really squeeze a bunch of family things into 1 month. And so what you're seeing here is I've already laid my photos out, and I typically like to lay them out kind of like a checkerboard pattern so that I have a good balance of photos and cards and embellishments. And then I have pre-selected some items from my stash that I'd like to use. I definitely want to use a couple of these Color Cast Designs acrylic pieces. So I'm just trying to even them out, spread them throughout. I don't want to have too many big words, but I have a lot of plants in this particular layout, but I tried to put that little plant die cut there and I was like, well, that's just too much. So I'm just kind of interviewing different pieces, just trying to see where some major things could fit so that I can then fit some other things around those. At this point, I basically just start cutting pattern papers out. I use one photo as a template, and sometimes I use my paper trimmer, and other times I just use my scissors. It's most of the time I use my scissors because the photos are so small that, you know, they're easy to just make one simple cut. The template that I'm using is available in my shop. If you would like to grab it, there are a couple of options. The one that I'm using here is actually slightly different. It has an 8th column on the right side, whereas my templates that are for sale only have 7 columns because they're kind of meant to be 1 column for every day of the week with an open space on either the right or the left. And there are options in that. I think it's called the Minimalist Bundle, and you can just find those in my shop under digitals or memory keeping. I think they're in a couple of different categories. And then I actually just hole punch these with the Happy Planner punch and pop them into a Martha Stewart disc bound cover. And that's what I've used for a few years when I started doing this, a format very similar to this in 2020. And it's a format that I really love. I love the space that it provides me. And so I knew that when I was kind of trying to figure out what to do with my family photos, I just knew I needed this specific format back in my life. I love the grid. And I love the big amount of space that I get. And with the templates that you can purchase from my shop, it does come with Photoshop and InDesign templates to actually put your photos in for printing. So you not only get the printable template, but you get the photo template that you can pop your photos into, print those out, and they'll be the right size to leave a little bit of extra space around the edges so that things feel like they have a little bit of room to breathe. So again, just cutting out different pattern papers, figuring out what colors can go where. I've kind of, based on the photos, I can work with greens, I can work with blues, pinks, teals, and yellows, which, you know, it kind of sums up all of the colors we all love to work with. But specifically, I'm trying to find, you know, cards and pattern papers that help to bring those colors out of the photos. I always love to color match. It's really important to me. That's probably the most fun part for me, is getting just those perfect papers and cards, the perfect colors to go with my photos. And something I do a lot, which is kind of how this format started for me was I had so many 3x4 cards, and then I moved into this, smaller photo type of situation, moving away from, pockets. And so I started thinking about how I could use my existing stash of 3x4 cards. And I noticed that a lot of the designs on the cards didn't take up the whole card, and you could easily trim or crop that card and still utilize the main design of it. And so anytime that I can trim or crop a design or a text or a quote from a 3x4 card, I feel so good about utilizing my stash and still being able to, grab the character from that card and use it for what it was intended to be used for. So it's just a little reminder that you do not have to use things as they were intended. You don't have to only use a 3x4 card in a pocket page. You can trim part of it out, just like pattern paper. I'm trimming and just utilizing the parts that I prefer. Now with a 3x4 card that's only a pattern, like let's say it doesn't have a design on it, and let's say it's not directional, let's say maybe it's like a polka dot or something like that. With this size photo, you can actually get two sizes, two cuts out of one 3x4 card. But if it's directional, or if there's something like a design in the way, then that might not always be an option. So here I feel pretty good about, what I've got so far. I've got some major quotes and major points of interest with patterns and colors. So now I'm just kind of filling things in, trying to make sure that there's not too many yellows close together, that there's not too much green grouped together. It's always, it's just kind of like a puzzle where you're just trying to figure out what looks best where. And that's super fun for me. And sometimes, or lately, for my Crafty Babe Crew exclusive videos, I have tried to talk you guys through these kinds of pages in real time. But since I kind of gave an explanation about my printing process in a previous video / earlier in this video, depending on who's watching this and when, I decided that this would be easier if I sped it up, because these particular pages actually take quite a while. I believe the unedited was about an hour and a half, and speeding it up, we're looking at, still probably 40 minutes or so. So it's a lot of talking for me to have to do. So I will try to get you some real-time action here and let you know kind of what I'm thinking as I go along. And right now I am trying to figure out, where I can put these teal things, but I'm feeling like there's too much of that teal color close together. So I'm trying to not only include it, but make sure that it's not just too grouped in one area. So I've got this smaller tag that I'm cutting down, and I'll put that over on the right. And then I've got the dog person and that, that diagonal stripe that's got that big chunk of teal right there. So that's kind of bugging me. And then, so at this point, I'm just looking for a couple of other potential options, and I grabbed a little, a backup photo from my photo stash. I'm not 100% sure that this photo actually fell in the month of March, but the colors were good. It provides an area for maybe some journaling or stamping, and so to me it just felt like it was something I allowed myself to do. So actually I went and grabbed my stash from issue number 24 because I was starting to feel like these colors felt familiar and remembered that, oh, I have all of these colors in issue number 24. So why don't I go see what I have to work with, and I grabbed the hearts because that kind of has all of the colors together. And then I was able to move the word strip piece over, which meant that those two teal sections with that one word strip and the grid on the right weren't competing. And then it just felt like that part felt much better. So I'm looking for some flowers here. Sometimes I don't know specifically what I'm looking for. Sometimes I'm just looking for a color. And I wasn't actually intending on anything for the top title, but I ended up finding that perfect pink with a little bit of yellow. It had enough whimsy to it and openness that it felt good. So here I'm just layering this leaf right underneath this little quote, and we're kind of at the decorating part now. I actually lost a couple of minutes of footage, and so before I got back to filming, I ended up gluing everything down. So I made my decisions about the paper and the cards, and now we'll get to actually decorating everything. I like this. I like the idea of that floral, but it feels a little bit heavy as far as like the style of it. I'm okay with the leaves that I used down on the bottom left because it's a little bit more subtle, but I'm having trouble with that big flower, so we'll address it. I kind of want to start thinking about stamps. Sometimes during this process I will stamp at the end. Sometimes the stamps are like the main thing. And here you guys are getting a little sneak peek at a brand new stamp set that's coming out on June 8th. So if you're watching this before June 8th, you get a sneak. This stamp set is called Memory Lane, and it's got all kinds of sentiments that basically help you scrapbook in the past, and it doesn't have to be the distant past. It can be the recent past, but I was creating a page that happened to reference an older photo or an older memory, and I didn't have anything in my stash of stamps that helped me portray what I was trying to say. And so I started thinking of phrases and sentiments, and just they all flooded out. And then with the help of my team, we came up with a few more phrases together, and now we have this stamp set. So I'm excited to get this out to you guys because I know we are not always creating pages for last week's memories. You know, a lot of us are still, behind. And I wanted to make sure that we had options if you wanted to go back and scrapbook about your childhood or anything like that. So anyway, that's going to be an option coming out soon. But for now, let's get back to this page. I have these chipboard words, and the colors are great. So I love that Ellie Studio puts these on acetate, because then I can play with them without the commitment of having to stick them down or having to cut out some acetate from something else. So I just cut them out, and I'm just interviewing. So I like to place things, and I'm just going to see if I can live with that. Sometimes I like to keep embellishments of the same colorway on the same color card, if that makes sense. So like here, I'm trying to see how it feels to put yellow text with some yellow floral onto yellow paper. But throughout the rest of this layout, I'm kind of not doing that. The colors are being mixed. And so that particular one is not going to live there because it just doesn't fit with the rest of how this layout is going. Typically, I also will only want one like large text, and usually that's the title, which is going to be that currently March. But I feel like I can play with this little corner over here, and it won't compete too much with what I'm going to do for the main title. I say that in air quotes. I don't title my pages, but I feel like since we're doing monthly, the month has to be there somewhere. So I really like the idea of using these as like not really a subtitle, but just kind of like an element, you know, a focal element. So we'll see how that works out and what I end up doing there. Just again, looking for things that have the same colors and where I can bring that color into other spaces. Here I think is about the time where I just am kind of looking for different things. I don't want too many circles. I don't want too many, you know, too many hearts. It just, you know, you're just kind of looking for what might feel right. Right now, it's this little ticket, and it's a great color. It's really helps bring the pink out of the bottom of that card, and it helps bring some of the darker shades of pink from the other places, and I like that there. So I'm kind of, again, not really feeling that flower. It's pretty heavy, and we're just thinking. And I'm thinking maybe a doily. A doily softens everything up. And even if you just use a little tiny corner, it has that perfect balance of feminine, vintage, but it doesn't take away from what you're trying to layer with it, because it's got the holes in it. You can totally see through, but it just kind of, it almost like adds transparency to whatever you're layering it on top of, and that's why I love doilies so much. I really, really, really want to make this flower work, but it's not happening. Not happening, and I feel like I'm kind of already committed to the Currently March and the flower situation. I feel like if I do another word with another floral, that it just feels like the same thing. So I'm moving the Currently March over. I've got the fun and the doily moved down, and I love it. Like, you know, when like I had to interview for a long time with the situation 2 squares up, but when I move things, typically it's an immediate yes or no. So this was an immediate yes, and I love it. And it also feels good that now there's like, again, 3 major words kind of in the corner, like the Currently March, the fun, and then the happy times. So I'm feeling good about that. You know, we're starting to get committed when the little hearts start coming out. Okay, we definitely are moving forward with this big title situation. I love sticker paper because I love sometimes when things can show through. It just adds a little element of interest. So now it's time to trim. I like to trim things immediately because they tend to kind of bug me and distract me a little bit from what the final product would look like. So if I know I've glued things down and I know that I want things hanging off the edge, I'm just going to go trim them right away so that I can really kind of like finish that section off and know that that's done. I have had no problems so far with adhering my acrylic pieces with my Tombow tape runner. It seems to be sticky enough. I have in the past used score tape, which is totally fine because it's clear, but it seems fine. And these are all, you know, outside of pocket pages, so I guess we'll see in years to come if they hold through the years. I decided to give that little sentiment die cut a little pop with some foam tape, just to kind of add to, we've got some texture going on with these larger pieces and the acrylic pieces. So I figured I'd give it a little dimension. I've definitely committed to this ticket, so I'm going to officially trim all of the little pieces out. And I like to use my little hole puncher here. It's actually a giant hole puncher with all kinds of different sizes. It's a We Are Memory Keepers. I have had my eye on this hole punch for probably 2 years until I finally decided to splurge and get it for myself. And it's been super handy because with having all the different sizes, little things like that, you can do the corners of labels, you can do different tag holes, sizes, you know what I'm saying. It's very versatile, very worth the, I think it was $40, but I'm okay spending that kind of money on items that have multiple uses. I am not a tools girl. I don't just like buy all kinds of fancy tools just to have them because I have a small space. And so I need things to have multiple uses. And that hole punch is definitely has earned its keep around here. So I went back to my issue 24 stuff. I knew I had this die cut with this little kind of like circle shape, and I just knew that would be a really great way to like add a little something to it without it feeling like it was competing with the big title over there. So I feel like it works and we're gonna go with it. But I'm just looking for something else, just see if there's anything else. And unfortunately, this is the way that I wanted it, with the P halfway through the circle, but you know, when you're getting ready to like stick stuff down, I thought that only the Y went through it, so it felt a little imbalanced when we get to the end of it, but that's okay. I live, I will survive. So I went to my little labels and I'm just adding places for me to stamp, places to journal, places to, you know, just add to the cards that are already here. I do love to just kind of add on when I can, as much layering as I can do to make myself feel like I can layer. So I really should have gone further into the circle. It would have made it feel like it was more meant to be together. So I end up having to kind of add something inside the circle to pull all of them together. So again, I will live, but I had a different vision for it, you know? And when you're working with so many different elements on a page like this, it's just hard to keep track of everything. But I still like it. And of course, I think you could all take a guess at what is going to go in the center. Spoiler alert, it'll be a heart. And see, at this point, I look at it again and I'm like, can I salvage this? But nope, it would have ruined that page or that part of the paper. So I just decided, all right, well, let's just figure out how to rectify this. It feels a little better. So sometimes you just have to work with what you got. Okay, at this point, I'm ready to glue that label down because I want to stamp on it. And then I think I'm ready to put that ticket down, but I still have to leave space for some journaling. So journaling for me always comes last. And I usually like to do a little bit of just bullets or small statements about, you know, what it was, what we did, that kind of thing. So, wait a minute, do I switch? I did not even remember that I switched tickets. Oh my gosh, did I really do that? I guess I did. All right. I do like that red color. It's like it kind of brings out, maybe it was necessary. There is a lot of yellow on this layout. Okay, well, and we found a way to use the flower. But anyway, about journaling. I do still have to journal, and I'm trying to just find places to give myself for some stamped sentiments or some written statements, and that always just works out perfectly for me. I don't tend to be very wordy when it comes to my pages, so all I need is a little bit of space to kind of like say, hey, here's what was going on, here's how I felt about this, that kind of thing. Yeah, okay, so we committed to the red ticket and not the yellow one. I totally forgot. And I'm putting this off the edge here because I want to use this as a smaller journaling spot as well. So I'm not going to use, the whole card. I'll give myself a little bit of room there. So let's go through the stamps and see what kinds of things pop out as far as what I want to say. I love using stamps because they always have the words that I don't. So it's very helpful. It's very helpful to have stamps that just can tell your stories. Because, yeah, I'm not here for the words, friends. But they're important, and I know that. So I do my best to, make sure that that someone could understand what was happening when they see my pages. One thing I love doing with long sentiment stamps is stacking them. And so here I've got a real long one, but I just stamped the first couple words and then stamped that down and then made sure the stamp was completely clean before I stamped the opposite side and placed that stamp right underneath it. I organize my stamps by theme. So this whole stack right here is about half of my sentiments stamps. So anything that's got a majority of words or sentiments, I keep them together because that's typically what I'm going to look for is, am I going to look for, words to help me tell my story? Am I going to look for shapes? Am I looking for, dates and calendar types of stamps? So if you've never seen the way I've organized my stamps, I'm sure there's something on my Instagram feed about it for sure, but I organize only in 5 categories. So basics, which is like backgrounds, icons, borders, things like that. Calendar items, so anything with dates, weeks, months, years, kinds of things. Alphas, numbers, and sentiments. And so anything that I bring in to my stash has to kind of fit into one of those categories, and it's worked out really well. And that may not work for you. You may need to categorize things by manufacturer or some other way, but this works really good for me because of the type of scrapbooking and memory keeping that I do. I don't do like big events or seasonal things. I document everyday kind of stuff. So to me, that's just how my brain works. But stamping usually, like I was saying before, usually comes at the end because it helps me to journal and get some sentiments down. We don't FaceTime with them very often because I talk to them a lot, but when we do FaceTime with them, I always try to get a screenshot just because I see them maybe once or twice a year, but we talk like twice a week. We're very close, but they live a little far away, so we're just about done, and I just want to give a little thank you for being here and hanging out with me. I hope you enjoy these videos. It is rare that I turn the camera on, but I do it for my crafty babes. And if you're watching this on my YouTube channel after it's been released to the public, just know that I do enjoy making videos, but it is so different creating with the camera on. And I feel a lot of pressure. That's probably just my own, pressure I put on myself, but it has a different feel. So if you like these, just, enjoy them, please, because I just don't do them very often. But if you want exclusive videos, if you want to see these videos first before they come here to YouTube, consider joining the Crafty Babe Crew. It is a monthly membership where you get exclusive videos and printables, as well as early access to Crafty Babe magazine, which comes out once every other month. And there are a ton of magazine perks and benefits that you get being part of the crew. And all of that information will be linked in the description. Thank you guys again so much for being here, to all my Crafty Babes and my YouTube fam. Thanks, guys. I'm glad that you're here. So we are just gonna wrap this up with a stamped sentiment here. Again, I love adding little bits of layers, not too many though. I still have to make it feel like me, and it has to be clean and simple, but you can add as many layers to anything as you like. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.